calm and stand by near the speakers for further instruction.
I was about to record this review of the Whitney Biennial when I heard that sound in my hotel room. The hotel had to be evacuated right as I was about to record. So I got started a little late, but here I go. Good evening. I'm Andre Callow, reporting from the Whitney Biennial in New York City. This year's show attempts, like always, to show off how contemporary art is timeless and still deeply tied into the zeitgeist, while also being cheerfully morbid, futuristic but retro, woke but capitalist. The show felt campy and over the top while also being weirdly small, befitting an economic recession that no one in politics, business, or culture has been willing to admit we are more than a year into at this point. In fact, the recession aesthetics are off the chart. The largest piece in the show was also completely virtual, Nancy Baker Cahill's Cento, which is an augmented reality sculpture that visitors were asked to see by downloading an app to their phone and turning on their cameras. Why this piece had to be inside the Whitney when it could literally be shown anywhere and everywhere for free whenever the artist wants at no cost was not clear. Two artists, Abbas and Abu Rame, use an out-of-sync video with text in English and Arabic along with drawings and photo-negative images to create a video mausoleum for Gaza. No call to action or assignment of blame for the genocide in Gaza, but they definitely want you to know that something happened. Sung 2 created a video audio sculpture installation that puts the sounds and the metal detritus of industrial production in the museum's central stairwell. Not actually polluting, not really killing with toxic chemicals or on-the-job accidents, but giving you the sensation so that you can spend time thinking about it, which you will not do. Jordan Strafer's film, it gives us JFK Jr.'s death and the death of his wife Carolyn. The aesthetics are tinted toward Douglas Sirk-like colors and shadows, very dark shadows and very bright, vivid, saturated colors. The music is this late 80s cheesy synthesizer sound, which is just getting more popular as days go by. Jim Fletcher, the great actor Jim Fletcher, among others, plays an American Army officer who's a rapist who's being interviewed on a talk show. And the frequent oscillation between the campy good fun and the maudlin but toothless social critique makes each one feel less potent, which is unfortunate. There's a collaboration sort of between the artists Maceda and Onda on this radio piece where there's an array of vintage radios that are circuit bent to use these quarter-inch audio inputs, playing mild polyrhythms quietly to represent the actual piece, where a number of separate audio tracks were played on different radio stations all over Manila in 1974. And so we get this recurring idea that's beginning to emerge of the biennial. It's presenting not the thing, but an artist's intervention in representing the thing, primarily, as far as I can tell, to reduce or neutralize the meager revolutionary potential of anything with a hint of non-mediation. Pat Oleshko combines monumental maximalist color, inflatable sculpture, with extra small black and white video in a 70s style childhood nostalgia nightmare, like the sleazy Salvation Army sensibility of Vito Acconci, um, you know, Paul McCarthy, Mike Kelly, Bruce Nauman, other artists who would have been given enough space to manifest the spectacle that this sort of work trades in, instead of just kind of like pointing at, hey, remember when people used to make this stuff? Young June Kwak has a sculpture that, like many sculptures in the biennial this year, has a sonic component that bleeds into the surrounding area, providing a muddy, muted soundtrack for other nearby unrelated pieces. I went to graduate school with Young June, who I have enormous respect for. The piece in this show is sort of Michelangelo's David, sliced into fajitas, floating in time and space and sound. A little moment of the sublime in a show that too often looks more like a chintzy Santa Fe tourist trap in terms of appeal to a particular class of retired heiress that makes up the vast majority of the Whitney's audience. Leo Castaneda created this third-person open-world virtual experience. It's a video game, and you play it with a PlayStation controller. Though, when I was with the piece, I watched people walk by it for 5 minutes with no one picking up the controller. I played for several minutes. I learned the controls. I got through checkpoints. I looked around. I jumped. I crouched. I very much like a, it was like if Harmony Korine's Aggro Drift were a Skyrim-style RPG. Now, when I went back an hour later, the game was exactly where I left it. The piece was as close as the biennial got to presenting work that felt like it was made in the last 30 years, let alone the last 2. And the visitors had no interest in it. None. Also, this piece had a preview distributed on Steam, so why not put the whole piece on Steam? It's a video game. The only thing that happens when you take something that is so explicitly, exclusively, pop art, like a video game, and you say, yeah, but there's only one of it, and you can only explore it for a little bit inside this art gallery. Because it's a luxury consumer commodity in the shape of significant cultural production. If you couldn't charge a fortune for it, it wouldn't be of interest to the Whitney or its constituents, which is why they decided to undermine the whole concept by robbing it of its ability to actually interact with people in the world, which is more or less the only thing that video games have going for them. Ash Arter's Drum Machine and Dirt piece plays very quietly on a Korg Volca Beats inside of a little plexi vitrine. The dirt and seeds are dispersed by the beating of the electronic drum, all according to the wall text. Face to face, the piece seemed entirely physically static, despite the sound of the slow thump of the Volca Beats. I'm a big fan of the Korg Volca line of low-cost electronic instruments. This is not a plug. They have not paid me anything. Though it was more energizing just seeing and hearing the device slowly and quietly play its simple beat than any idea that might have been the point of the piece itself. It made me want to go to B&H Photo Video to find a Volca Beats to play around with. Precious Okuyoman's massive suspended installation on the 8th floor was the only piece in the biennial that wasn't scored by the sound of a nearby audio sculptural installation, with these small handmade creepy dolls stitched together from different toys abandoned by anonymous children. They're hanging from miniature nooses above the heads of the viewers. As I've often discussed with Dr. Eleanor Russell, my extraordinary wife, the Walker Art Museum in Minneapolis is maybe the only place I've ever been that understands Elizabeth Grosh's concept of chaos territory art, which is that the first thing you do when making art is delineate the inside and the outside of the frame, the boundary of the piece. Museums seem mostly to take their cue from Best Buy and Walmart TV departments, where muffled audio from 24 sources all play over each other, making it impossible to hear anything properly, or even know for sure which piece is making which sounds. Normally, this only makes it impossible to enjoy video or sound art, but in this year's show, nearly every piece had some audiovisual component, and often several. It felt to me like the curators were saying this exhibit exists not in the realm of the senses, or even the world of ideas. There's no point in attempting to experience the art. The exhibit is exclusively a series of advertisements for the art that you're looking at, and the building, and the show you're at, and the Hyundai who sponsored the sculpture of a big glass fireplace out on the terrace. You're not here to look at the work or experience it, really. So please move quickly to the egress. That's what they're saying. My trip this time, I didn't have time to see Niall Harris and Dire Rhodes perform. I'm going to be going back to Chicago before they start their performances here. I got to see a lime green crate under a digital sign with some Russian text on it, which is an artifact of the live performance. Though I did see Niall Harris's The Fall of the City by Archibald MacLeish at the Armory's Unscripted event that occurred this past Saturday, which succeeded at synthesizing the camp fun with an apocalyptic revolutionary call to action, straight up mogging the Whitney Biennial's feeble attempts at the same. It was, if I were the Whitney, I would be humiliated to be, put in conversation with something that so effectively and accurately pinpoints the exact thing that the Biennial is trying and failing to do on 8 floors of a giant building. But my favorite piece in the whole Biennial was a small collection of performance instructions from Maya Chow, asking the Biennial's visitors to touch the walls, stare at one another, and deliberately spend more time engaging with artworks than one ordinarily would, especially in a show of this scale. And, it was the kind of thing that I love about the art of people like Yoko Ono and Bruce Nauman, which is that it directly engages you with an action that you can take, an idea you can, participate in, so that you're not thinking about the thing that you're face to face with as, a beautiful thing to be purchased and sold, or even as some kind of political statement, but as an actual, real experience you get to have. And if there had been more stuff like that, the show would feel like it had a reason to exist.